Woodbridge, Ontario, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is holding a news conference there.
Extorsion. Agression sexuelle.
Sexual assault.
76% augmentation.
76% increase. Violent crime, 55%.
Homicide, 29%.
Homicide up by 29%.
Des Canadiens ont dit
The majority of Canadians
qu'ils ont peur
told
de vivre au Canada maintenant.
polls that they're afraid of living in Canada now. That's the majority of Canadians have told pollsters that they are afraid of living. They're afraid to live in Canada today. We know the stories, like David Seneca. He raped a 3-year-old child, and this man was released after doing exactly the same thing to a 12-year-old boy. He has committed 6 or 7 crimes in his past. Or Aline Tarouki, the courageous father who was killed in his home in front of his children by 3 criminals. He lost his life by making the most courageous act a man can do, which is to defend his family. Today we are here to ask for the repeal of the legal reforms that the Liberal government has put in place. Today we will be proposing a bill that will repeal and replace the moderation principle and ensure protection of the public first and foremost in the decisions regarding release of offenders. Next, serious crimes, for example, human trafficking, break and enter, assault, arson. And in these cases, it will be the duty of the accused to prove that they are not a threat to the public in order to be paroled. We will strengthen probation laws by forcing judges to take consideration of all crimes of the accused and prohibit anyone committed who has been charged with a serious crime from being released. C-75 has caused this misery, and we will repeal it by putting offenders in jail. Conservatives will work with any party to keep the public safe. I've already said that our party will oppose, yes, but we will also propose. We want the same things we said during the campaign, a country that is safe and affordable. We want to bring back the promise of Canada that anybody who works hard can have a beautiful life in a beautiful, affordable home with affordable groceries in safe communities. That is our goal. So work with us. Work with us to adopt this conservative law that will protect the public and put criminals in jail. Thank you.
Before I begin, please allow me to offer my condolences to the family and loved ones of Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old father of 2 who was mercilessly assassinated yesterday at a university campus for having expressed contrary views. Universities are supposed to be places of debate where differing opinions can be offered and exchanged in peace and security. We must all unite, regardless of our political views, around a simple principle. Political violence is never acceptable. Every person should be free to express their opinion without fear of violence. And speaking about fear of violence, this house here behind me, the owner has spent $100,000 on extra security, bulletproof windows, camera systems, alarms, electric fencing in certain parts of the home. I won't get too specific because I don't want the bad guys to know exactly where and what he's got. But can you imagine spending $100,000? Do you know before the Liberal government you could buy a house in some parts of Canada for under $100,000? Now that's what it costs to secure your house. Crime is raging out of... And you heard the stories of the courageous victims behind me today telling their stories. You know, I find it incredible that Sean Fraser, Minister of Injustice, the man who ruined our entire immigration system before Mr. Carty then promoted him to be responsible for the crime crisis. He said the other day, this is not the Wild West. Really? Has he talked to these victims? A woman who's had to leave the country of her birth to live in another nation because she's afraid of her ex tracking her down? Has he talked to the family of Aleem Farouki, the courageous father who rose in the middle of the night to defend his kids and lost his life in front of those children? The three cowardly scumbags who carried out that attack, I bet you anything they have already been arrested in the past. You know, I had one family member of a crime victim the other day say, Sean Fraser is right. It's not a Wild West. It's a war zone in some of these communities. People in these neighborhoods are terrified. They are genuinely afraid of the crime that is raging in our streets. And these are not just stories. This is not sensationalism. This is data and facts. Here's what the facts say, if you believe Statistics Canada. Under the Liberals' catch and release system, extortions are up 330%. Sexual assaults up 76%. Violent crime up 55%. Homicides up 29%. A majority of Canadians told a pollster that they worry a lot or worry sometimes about their own personal safety. A majority of Canadians are now afraid to live in Canada after a decade of these Liberal laws. In Toronto, residential robberies are up 50%, and we see more than 900 armed robberies in the last 2 years. The rate of armed robberies is actually doubling. And the stories are piling up. They are horrendous. We've got the story of James Plover. He was released while awaiting sentencing. 3 hours after his release, he brutally murdered Bailey McCourt, his ex-wife, in a parking lot just 4 kilometers from the courthouse. Daniel Senecal. He had already been convicted of sexually assaulting a 12-year-old boy, and the Liberal justice system released him so that now he's charged with raping a 3-year-old child. This is sick. As a father, I am sickened by these stories and the unnecessary nature of them. All of these crimes were avoidable if the criminals had been kept where they belong, in jail, and not released. And then, of course, we heard from Naeem, his brother Aleem, who is a hero, frankly, a true hero. He did the greatest act of courage that any man could do, defend his family, and he lost his life for it. Again, almost certainly a totally avoidable tragedy. How did this happen? You know, some people say we need bail reform. No, we have bail reform. That's the problem. We have Liberal bail reform. It's called C-75. And let's stop blaming the judges. The law is very clear. The Liberals wrote into the law that a judge must release the accused, and I quote, at the earliest opportunity, under the least onerous conditions. At the earliest opportunity, under the least onerous conditions. That is the Liberal bail reform. And that is why in the city of Vancouver, they have had to arrest the same 40 offenders 6,000 times. That means each offender was arrested 150 times in 1 year. And then they get released and they reoffend. Released, reoffend. We've been telling the Liberals that their law is leading to terror in our communities. We've been telling them that for years. And what did Mark Carney do when he became Prime Minister? He shut down Parliament to go on summer vacation, a lot of useless globetrotting, and he has not changed the law. Imagine if instead of going on summer vacation, he had repealed the Liberal bail reforms last spring. How many assaults, murders, robberies would have happened? Mark Carney, it is time for you to do the right thing and reverse Liberal bail laws that are unleashing terror in our communities. And if you won't do it, we will. That's why Conservatives are here today. to announce RPEN Canada's bill, the Jail Not Bail Act, to strengthen public safety and rebalance our justice system to put law-abiding citizens first. It will replace the liberal principle of restraint. In other words, judges will no longer be required to release the accused at the earliest opportunity under the least onerous conditions. It will introduce a new major offenses category that requires anyone accused of sexual assault, firearms offenses, kidnapping, human trafficking, home invasion, robbery, extortion, arson, and other serious charges. They will then have the onus on them to prove that it is safe to release them on bail. We will strengthen bail laws by mandating judges also consider the accused full criminal history and prevent anyone with prior major convictions from getting bail. There will be a tough risk assessment system to look into whether or not an offender is likely to offend while out on bail. We will prohibit anyone with an indictable offense from acting as a guarantor for another accused person. This is on top of other conservative laws that we will bring in, like repealing C-75, repealing C-5, the house arrest law, bringing in a 3 strikes you're out law, meaning that anyone who's convicted of 3 prior offenses will automatically be denied bail, parole, probation, or house arrest. We will ban the Bishnoi gang. We will lock up extortionists. We will bring in mandatory jail time for intimate partner violence and other serious offenses. We want to lock up these criminals and throw away the key to keep our communities safe, to reverse the damage the Liberals have done. And we do this not out of hatred for the criminal, but out of love for the victims. We want this to be a safe country again. Everything we as Conservatives do is for one purpose, to restore the promise of Canada, that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a nice, affordable home with meat and potatoes on the dinner table every single night, in a safe neighborhood where you go to bed knowing that when your head hits the pillow, you're safe and sound in your beautiful refuge, and where a beautiful Canadian flag hangs from the front porch. That's the promise of Canada. That's the hope of our future. So let's bring together this massive coalition from across the country of police chiefs, of victims, of members of parliament, of victims advocates who are coming together now and demanding security, demanding that Canada be a safe and secure place, demanding that we put victims first, and that's what Conservatives will do when the parliamentary session returns. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now on to questions from the floor.
Good morning, Carly Thomas with CBC News. What do you make of some of the first major projects announced by the government, and what do they tell you about the government's priorities? Do you think these government funds should be used to support any of these future projects?
What we have today is Mark Carney, after 6 months, has not approved a single national project anywhere in Canada. It's really incredible. He was elected saying that we are in an unprecedented crisis and that we needed to move with unimaginable speed. So what has he done? He's not permitted a single major mine, pipeline, nuclear plant, or anything else. What he's done today is announce that he's going to send an email to an office that isn't even fully staffed up yet, which will one day consider possibly approving 5 projects. This is pathetic. Do you know the federal government is blocking 39 projects that are in the regulatory system? 39. Scott Moe says there's another 100 projects in Saskatchewan alone that are waiting on federal decisions. The message to Mark Carney and the Liberals is they need to do one thing. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. All these projects need to go ahead is the removal of liberal anti-development laws and taxes that make them impossible to build. We don't need a new bureaucracy in Ottawa or a new dream list. We need the federal government to get out of the way, and I'm here to help them do it. I'm putting forward the Canadian Sovereignty Act, which will get the government out of the way, open the country for business, unlock our resources, repeal the industrial carbon tax, the energy cap, the shipping ban, C-69, the pipeline ban, repeal all of those liberal laws so that we can become a country that is strong, self-reliant, and stands on its own 2 feet. And I would just conclude by looking at the results of Mr. Carney, not his promises, not his latest paper shuffling exercise. $62 billion of net investment has left Canada since he became Prime Minister. That is the worst 5-month record of investment in Canadian history. Mark Carney has lost 86,000 jobs, and there is nothing to show for his 6 months. It's time for him to get out of the way, let builders build, let workers work, and let us become a strong, self-reliant, and sovereign country. Thank you.